And so, going to introduce a few concepts. What we call the Nwnw, or the Nwnw, is the Mbongi of Central Africa. And this is the linguistic equivalent. It's not just a conceptual. When we do comparative linguistics, there's a thing that we deal with called sound change. And so when we do the comparative studies, we notice, for instance, when we compare the Egyptian N and the Yoruba G, for example, that they correlate in this initial position. So you see Egyptian Nebed, goldsmith; Yoruba, Agbede, goldsmith; Nebet, basket; Agbon, basket. You see where the N becomes the G in these comparative examples? This tells us that in their ancestral language, that there was actually what we call a nasal velar. It's a G with the N sound merged with it. So it's kind of like when we say sing, and then in the dialects they split. So the Egyptian kept the N, and it merged with their original N, and the Yoruba kept the G. And so when we're comparing, some more, Lord, Master, also this W, remember that the ancient Egyptians didn't write out their vowels. Everything is a consonant. And so we pronounce it new, but it's not new. It's probably like N with a vowel in between, and like way, or something like, Zizi way, po. That way has a vowel itself under it. It's not a U type sound. And so this is very important, because when we compare these terms, for instance, like with the new, we can see that they correlate with these particular sounds. So again, with the N, the G over here in Yoruba, N, G over here in Yoruba, N, G over here in Yoruba. This W correlates with B. B often turns into W in compared correspondences. And so in the Kikongo language, the language of Fukiao, the syllables are switched. And so instead of saying Agbo, circle, they say Mboka, Mbungwa. But in Yoruba, it's Igba, Agbe, gourd. You can see the related concepts. And so when we get here to this Nwnw, this so-called celestial waters, it correlates with the Mbongi. It's just reduplicated in Egyptian. But in the Bassa language, it's totally Mbog. We'll get to that a little later. And so it's going to correlate with a little bit what Dr. Faraji was speaking on earlier in terms of the quantum world. And so this word Nun, or the Mbongi or Mbog, is a word for cosmos, but it's also the same word for nation and family, society, belonging to an ethnic group together, group, species, genus, system, in these Bantu languages here. And this is the key word here, system. And so when you're looking at Nu, you're looking at a system. And in the Bassa language, which is in Cameroon, we get a better understanding of this Nun, or the Mbog. It talks about even the smallest universe, or empty set. Remember that Fukiao spoke about an empty set earlier, but it wasn't really empty. And so this is what they're talking about here. In the mathematical sense, the almost empty, the universe Nu, or the universe down to the barest essential dimension, the infinite set, the universe within the universe, the insignificant, indeterminate, the infinitely small, the universe of the universe. They're talking about quantum mechanics. They're talking about a quantum universe. And out of this quantum universe comes the phenomenon which we see, which was fired up by the Kalunga, which was the fire force. And so this brings us now to Ra. Remember, this sound here is a K. When you say Ra, it's not really Ra, it's like Rick. But in the Congo, it's Nga. And so this Ka is a prefix. I don't have time to go through all of this, but the Kalunga, Karunga, Mulungu, Murungu, Kalanga, Itango, Katanga, Intangu, Ilanga, Proto-Bantu Dan, this is how you pronounce Ra. And so when you talk about Kalunga, the fire force, this is Ra in Central Congo. And so we can demonstrate here. Remember I said that Lunga was all these different words, which they kind of, use paronymy and homonymy. And so we have Lunga here, the light, or make it blow or fire. We also have Kalunga, ocean. Lunga here is smithy, a forge, a foundry, a gale, a blast, a strong wind. We also have Lunga, perfect, complete. And it's going to have some implications on the goddess when we get to there. But notice this root here, Lunga, to be exact, just, accurate, right, perfect, expired, fulfilled. It's going to become, we will pronounce it in the Egyptian to complete, but it has that K in the prefix. Kikongo Kalunga, complete. To tie, bind. Kikongo Kalunga, to tie, bind. Unk, when you say unk, it's really not unk. It's really Kanga. You can say Kanga, Congo. In Kole, for great leader, we say, ah, like per ah, it's not really ah. This is a K sound and this is an R sound. So it's in Kole, in Kwele, Kalunga, Kola, all of these different words. And so this word Ra is also, we know in the Yoruba language, is Shango, because the R and T sounds interchange. And the T becomes palatalized and becomes a sh sound. And these are some of the forms that you'll see it in, because Ra, dealing with fire, also deals with light and whiteness, and these are some of the kind of the semantic extensions. And so now we get to the goddess Ma'at. And so, given these correspondences here, is it Ma'at? How would you pronounce it? How would you? It's more like Merek, Mereket. Truth, justice, straightness, balance, and order. The M is a prefix. It's a prefix of abstraction. Most of the languages in the Congo don't have the M prefix, and so only have the root, which is the R and the K sound. The T is a feminine suffix in ancient Egyptian. And so, remember that line that we saw in the beginning? Karenga talks about, when we talk about Ma'at, posits that the etymology of Ma'at suggests an evolution from a physical concept of straightness, evenness, levelness, correctness, as the wedge-shaped glyph suggests, to a general concept of rightness, etc. And so we see here, in Longa, line, roll, foul, a swarm of driver ants on the march, a troop, a swarm. In the Kikuyu language, runga, straighten, chiluba, mulongo, rank, roll, line, series, many. This is where we get the word right from in English. This is borrowed by the Negro Egyptian speakers. It's from Proto-Indo-European reg. Move in a straight line, also to rule, to lead straight, to put right. The English word right comes from that same root. Same for regulate, regular, regal, correct. When you're saying the word right, you're saying the word right, literally. Because they're saying it with the root, you're just saying it without the M prefix. And so there's many words in Indo-European that are borrowed from these African languages. The root for Ma'at is really an R sound. It's redoubled in Middle Egyptian. It's really and truly. In Chiluba, it's Lela, or Lelelele, truth, authentic, variable. Siswana, Ruri, truly. Yoruba, Ododo, Otito, truth, fact, justice, equality, right, righteousness. With the Chiluba now has the K suffix here, but they didn't put the M prefix. So it's Sia, or Sia, Leka, truth, reality. In the Bassa language, they actually pronounce it like in the old ways, Malega. So if you want to say Ma'at in a more modern sense, this is how you pronounce it, like in the Bassa Cameroon language, Malega. And of course in the Kikongo, in Nwnw, justification, justice, righteousness, blameless, completeness.
Hotep, everyone. Sorry to interrupt the flow of this video, but during the taping, we had a few technical difficulties with the camera, and it did not record the last few minutes of the presentation. Therefore, I have decided to edit in the last few slides from the presentation and add my commentary here. So we will now continue from the part where we left off a few moments ago. To continue our discussion, as we noted from the last entry that we had above, in the Kikongo language we have Nwnw, which means justification, the state of being just, justice, righteousness, blameless, and completeness. It continues in Kikongo with Lunga, to be accurate, right, be exact, perfect, etc. In the isiZulu language we have Lunga, become right, become good. isiZulu again, Utulunga, accuracy. All of these terms deal with, on one level or another, this concept of the reality of truth and reality itself, which extends itself into justification, righteousness, and blamelessness. To be accurate, to be good. All of these concepts are related, and all of these have this L or R, G or RK root that we can see in all of these various examples. And so we will continue. On the next slide, we have a diagram that was originally created by Dr. Fukiao, and it talks about this concept called Kaninga, which is the balance. And so just like in ancient Egypt, how your deeds were weighed on the scale of Ma'at, the scales also being Ma'at, we have the same thing here amongst the Kongo speakers, except it is called Kininga. And that root Ninga is our root Lunga, just with the L nasalized. And so it's all the same word. So we have the same concept using the same root as we find in ancient Egypt as it regards one's health during the ancestralization process. But more importantly, in this particular instance, this concept of Kaninga is dealing with balance also in health. And so we will see in the next slide the relationship between health and balance, and we can utilize the Kikongo variation to speculate and interpret what was going on in ancient Egypt in terms of Ma'at also applying to human health. And so from the text Writing Nature Cultures in Zulu Zionist Healing by Rune Flick, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, he states, in a study of Bantu healing rituals, Jansen sheds light on this when he argued that conceptions of health are captured in the notion of leading a balanced life. In Zulu, the root lunga, used in greetings, wishing people health and well-being, include the notion of balance and harmony with the natural and social environment. To reestablish harmony and balance is thus a goal of healing of the healing process. In order to achieve, the rituals focused on the manipulation of places and relations to living and departed relatives to achieve healing. And so again, this particular text is reinforcing that this word lunga, the same root as ma'at, dealing with the concept of balance, also applies to health. And this is your overall well-being, and also being in harmony with the natural and the social environment. So everywhere we go in the Bantu world, this root in this world is critical to its indigenous philosophy and ontological perspectives. And so the last ending slide that we have here, the left map comes from Jean-Claude Mboli's Origin of African Languages, and after his reconstruction, he informs us of his hypothesis as far as the flow of the Negro Egyptian speakers. And so as we can see, as we mentioned earlier, the Middle Egyptian branch is totally separate from the Coptic branch, but the Middle Egyptian branch comes from the same Proto-Bantu root as Bantu. And this para-Bantu group of Middle Egyptian speakers moved up into North Africa, into what we now call Egypt. And its close relatives are the Bambara languages, the Hausa, Zande. Now, the Bantu languages, of course, moved south, as we can see the arrows going south. And so they have dominated, for the most part, the southern half of Africa. And so because the Middle Egyptian and the Bantu groups come from the same proto-parent, these same terms, we find inherited in these related languages. And so these concepts and applications and the semantics mapping, we find virtually the same in these different traditions. And so on the right hand side is a figure that was created by Dr. Jocelyn Jeffries out of New York for a book, a translation work for Dr. Muba Binge Bilolo. And so this is a sun mask that we see at the top here, with the sun rays on the face, that is for the Baluba people, for a death mask that is given to a great chief or high priest or somebody of importance, when they die. And so just wanted to, point this out in terms of the relationships of concepts, and we find the same things in ancient Egypt.